The firstborn son turned out to be Andrew Carrington, a 26-year-old HVAC technician in line to take over the family business a decade or two in the future when his father James retired. The young man had been shot at close range in a back corridor at the Columbia Mall early on Thursday, March 3rd, while on his way out from completing a job fixing a bulky thermostat. He had been on site before the mall opened for his first job of the day, and, as it had turned out, his last. There had been no witnesses to the shooting, although several mall employees had heard the shot, and mall security had arrived on the scene within minutes. Peller scrutinized the area closely, but found nothing to suggest anything beyond the bare fact that a young man had died violently. Aside from the body sprawled on the floor in a pool of blood, the corridor was so nondescript that it might as well not have been there. Carrington could have been lying in an undifferentiated expanse of gray suffused with mist. Peller let his eyes play over every inch of the body, the head twisted sideways as though still looking for the assailant, the left arm outstretched as though to break the fall, the right leg pulled up with the foot turned inward, probably in a last-ditch effort to recover balance. The shot had come from behind and penetrated the skull almost dead center. Peller was sure he'd never known what happened. A sudden cacophony of voices jarred Peller from his thoughts. Turning, he saw a man built like a linebacker trying to push his way through a wall of police officers who were struggling to hold him back. "You can't come in here, sir," one of the officers said, while another yelled, "Stay back! Stay back!" "Let me through," he barked. "What's going on? Who's that on the floor, damn it? Let me through!" He forced the officers a few feet forward, then stopped and stared in horror at the body. "Oh my God," he whispered, then cried, "Andrew! Andrew!" He tried to take another step, but the officers had rearranged themselves to better restrain him, and he couldn't move. Peller stepped between the man and Andrew's body. The newcomer was a good 4 inches taller than he, forcing him to look up. "Who are you?" he asked, keeping his voice low. "My son! What the hell happened? That's my son!" Peller looked back at the dead man. "Mr. Carrington, we should go somewhere else to discuss this." Carrington drew back a fist, but the officers yanked him backwards before he could land the punch. "I'm not leaving my son," he bellowed. "Who did this? Tell me who did this. I'll kill him." "This is a crime scene," Peller said sharply. "You can't be here. Let's go to the security office. We can talk there." Carrington glared at Peller, who met him with a face of stone. Finally, the father slumped. "Okay," he said. The officers relaxed their grips on him. He turned away, then, with a massive thrust, he threw them off. "Where's security?" The mall security guard, who had been assigned to the crime scene, led Peller and Carrington through a maze of service corridors to the mall office, then through the public area to a private office. "This is Janet's office, but she won't be in for a couple hours," the guard said as he opened the door. "That give you enough time?" Peller nodded, and the man exited. The room was nothing more than a large cubicle with barely enough room for a desk and a couple of chairs, but its regular occupant had made an attempt to cheer it with a potted African violet under a tiny grow light and a framed set of prints of Monet's Bridge in various seasons. Peller doubted they would help today. "Won't you sit down, Mr. Carrington?" he asked. "Can I get you some water?" Carrington slumped into a chair and fixed his eyes on the floor. "No thanks." "What brought you here?" Peller asked. Carrington worked his jaw for a moment, as though about to spit out something inedible. "Andrew should have been on to his next job. The dispatcher couldn't raise him. I thought maybe something had gone wrong with the job, so I was coming out to help." He looked up suddenly. "Do you know who did this?" he demanded. Peller shook his head. "It's too early. There weren't any witnesses. Tell me about your son." "He was a good kid. There's no reason for this to happen. No one would have wanted to hurt him." Tears slipped from Carrington's eyes. He angrily wiped them away. So I guess he was never in any serious trouble? No, never. He was the quiet one, smart, good with numbers. His younger brother was the one who got into scraps, not him. Peller felt a chill run down his back. Andrew was your oldest? No, his sister Maria is the oldest. He was our second. Firstborn son, though. Anger boiling up from his gut, Peller turned away to prevent Carrington seeing. Yeah, Carrington said, tears filling his eyes. Firstborn son. When finally Peller dragged himself back to headquarters and up to his desk, he found Montefiore waiting for him, a new bag letter in her hands. Damn him, Peller said, knowing what it was before looking. Damn him, damn him, damn him. What's the number now, 17? 2. Montefiore read it. 2 shots, 2 kills. Slower students may wish to ponder my namesake. Namesake? What the hell does that mean? The envelope was printed on, are you ready for this? An old dot matrix printer. So was the letter. The return address is a non-existent street in Bel Air. The name he gives this time is Leonidas Pissarro. Peller rubbed his eyes. And that's supposed to mean something to us? I think so. I just got my hands on this a few minutes ago, so I haven't had time to research it. But I'm betting the name will tell us something important. All right, look into it. I have to. Before he could finish, a quiet female voice behind him interrupted. I need to see both of you in my office right away. The voice belonged to Captain Whitney Morris, head of the Criminal Investigations Division. And in spite of her subdued tone, Peller knew the matter was serious. Not a difficult deduction under the circumstances, but it was more than that. There was a tension in the captain's face that he had only seen on the worst of days. Right away, he agreed, turning to follow her. Montefiore fell into line behind. Morris led them into her office in the corner of the building. It had windows on 2 sides, an ample desk, bookcases crammed with heavy volumes on law and police procedure, and management practices, and 4 chairs for visitors. Her desk was the cleanest one in the place, with little more on it than her computer, a notepad, and photos of her husband and 3 children. The last one in, Montefiore closed the door behind her, and they all sat. Morris took a moment to regard the photos, then said, Over the past 5 years, Howard County has averaged 3.8 murders per year. This guy Leo is going to shatter that statistic in just a few days if we don't stop him. Between him and the Gulf attacks, we're getting some dirty looks from the powers that be, and the press appears to be gearing up for a feeding frenzy. She paused a moment to let it sink in. As if it had to, Peller thought. Tell me what you need to resolve these cases. He glanced at Montefiore. She shrugged, almost imperceptibly. Mostly time, he replied. Which is the one luxury we don't have, the captain said. Everything has to be priority 1. Ballistics, ME, the works. The notes haven't told us anything helpful yet. But Karina is researching the names he's been using. The latest note suggests that's important. Unfortunately, the only other constants are the numbers. Morris picked up her pen and clicked it a few times. I can reassign the golfer case. It might be connected, Montefiore told her. How? Peller shook his head. We don't know that. It's just an off-the-cuff idea Eric had. He thought it odd that 2 nutcases would be committing high-profile crimes at the same time. After a few more clicks of the pen, which Peller found vaguely irritating, Morris made her decision. Rick, you work the murders full-time. Eric can ride point on the golfer muggings. Karina, I want you to switch hit. That way, if there is a connection, we won't miss it. I'll reassign anything else the 3 of you have on your plates. If you need any additional support, I'll get it for you. She waited for the detectives to rise from their chairs, then asked, What's the number on the latest note? 2, Peller told her. 2 what? 2 shots, 2 kills. She slumped in her chair. A bad sign, Peller thought. Captain Morris wasn't generally one to show even a hint of weakness. So that concludes Chapter 3 of the Fibonacci Murders. Thank you for sticking with me through this. If you were at all interested in the story, you can probably find it online, Google it for any information. If you really, really like it, there is a sequel in the works, True Death, so things to look forward to. But again, thank you very much for sticking with me on this, and I look forward to reading to you on the next installment of Mr. G Reads.